You know, I forgot to mention Deadpool. I said that Deadpool is part of the Marvel universe. He totally is not.
I knew he wasn't.
I know.
There's no way.
I said it completely wrong.
So one of my middle school kid who is in the know and knows all has said that this is technically like Disney's first R-rated movie because it is under them, but I don't know what the studio is. I don't get that relationship at all.
It's like
they're trying to like
done by
hide
Marvel,
the fact.
but it's like distributed by Fox, which makes it under technically the X-Men film series. So X-Men
weird.
1, 2, and 3.
I mean, that makes sense. All these characters in it are X-Men, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Colossus,
X-Men
and
1, 2, and 3,
and
and then the 3 Wolverine movies, and then the 3 other X-Men movies, and then Deadpool. So that makes it actually longer than the MCU, right? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But it's so long.
Alrighty, welcome back. At long last.
You thought you were rid of us, didn't you? You thought we'd
why
never
do I
come back
talk to you?
after several episodes of saying you can't get rid of us that easily. We'll be back, and then we weren't back. That sounds like exactly the kind of thing people who won't be back would say.
Just right out the gate, Dave.
But here we are.
Just right out the gate with this, aren't you?
Well, every time you said that, I always got a little nervous. Cause like, I mean, we might not be back. I mean, this has always been a very by the seat of our pants type thing. Obviously, through 23 episodes.
Yeah, this is our 20. This is our
anything.
24th episode. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make it to 25. That's pretty good. That's about all I'm promising right now. That we'll make it to 25.
You're not wrong.
Yep.
So welcome back.
I mean, if any of you are really broken up about it, you can let us know. But
I don't think you're going to.
You know, it's just fun. Anyway.
Hi.
Keep going. Hi.
How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well. It's nice to be back.
Yeah.
I've been playing more game lately, which is fun. We discussed that before, but this podcast isn't about games, so I don't want to go too much into it now. But
sure.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I've been busy,
but less busy
lately.
Yeah,
but,
that's good.
But as of the past couple of months, extremely busy.
Yes.
So it's good to have some time off for both of us. That that we don't have much responsibility, that we can finally do some stuff and discuss some things. And especially lately, with the one that we're about to drop today, has brought the whole nerddom world in a huge tizzy.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mostly positive.
Sure.
It's not the tizzy that Star Wars brought us to.
No.
That's for sure.
By no means.
No.
We're talking, of course, Avengers,
Marvel,
Infinity
baby.
War.
Marvel, baby.
This was not only is this just like a nice topical topic to discuss, but
it's kind of a softball.
Sure, but we did bring this up a little bit in a previous cast.
Yep.
When we were discussing comic book movies in response to the Brothering Around podcast. We made a couple of predictions and just a couple of notes regarding like the state of comic book movies and Marvel's MCU up until this point as well. One of the things we wanted to bring up about that just briefly was talking about how Marvel movies seem to be not so much an event anymore. At that time that we recorded that cast, Black Panther was not out.
Correct.
Right?
Black Panther had not come out yet.
Neither did Avengers, obviously. Now, I still have not seen Black Panther to no reason other than just I was super busy when it was happening. But Dave did.
Yeah, it was really good. It was my favorite Marvel movie in a while. When I walked out from that one, I was like, okay, Marvel, like you got something left in the tank. It was nice having a Marvel movie that didn't involve Tony Stark. And that's I'm a little bit biased on that. And there have been other movies like that, but it was nice. It felt very separated from everything else that was in the MCU, right? It was an origin story that wasn't tied into hardly anything else that had happened. I mean, you had, what's his name character? Andy Serkis' character, who I guess was in the second Avengers movie, but I completely forgot about. And that was about it.
He was.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. I don't know why he was in, but sure, he was there. And that was about the only connection there was. And other than that, it was just a really good movie about Black Panther. And there was a lot of good stuff. It was a lot of fun, a lot of cool culture stuff. I love the characters. I love his sister's character. She's super awesome. And there's just a lot of strong, good characters in the movie. So yeah, it was an event, I think. I think especially for what it did in like the African American community, it was an event for that. And honestly, it was a good enough movie to be an event on its own. So great movie.
I think not having so much association with the more known MCU characters, I think is them definitely making their efforts to push away and create like the new phase. You know what I mean?
And we'll definitely come back to that later on and sort of where we think this is going. But I think that is true.
Yeah. I saw, admittedly after Infinity Wars, but I did finally get to see Doctor Strange. Kind of going along the same lines of what we were saying before of how Marvel movies didn't really seem to be much an event. You didn't need to see Doctor Strange to enjoy Infinity War.
I actually do want to see it now just because I enjoyed Doctor Strange so much in Infinity War, but I get what you're saying.
I have a feeling you're not going to enjoy it.
My wife keeps saying she thinks I will, so...
Well, the reason why I say probably not is because Doctor Strange is...
Strange?
No.
Oh, okay.
Doctor Strange is Tony Stark.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How? Whatever. Don't even tell me. All right, we'll see.
Well, okay.
That's weird because in this movie they've like not interacted with each other, right? Like in the Avengers, it seems as if they're like, oh hi, like hello person I've never met before.
I disagree. I think their interactions are pretty well. We'll go into that, I guess.
I like they're aware. At least he is aware of who Tony Stark is, but he's not happy about it, and I don't blame him. I'm not happy about it either.
Well, maybe later we'll discuss Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I personally think you won't hate Doctor Strange, but you might enjoy it about as much as you saw Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So, I had made a couple of predictions at the end. By the way, this is spoiler ridden completely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're not even going to try to hide anything about
no.
Infinity War. So
No.
If you haven't,
just go see it. Like, if you haven't been spoiled somehow, like how?
Seriously, the internet is
I don't
ripe
feel so good.
with spoilers. People have
It's
been
not even that good a meme.
No, but like people have just been not afraid to spoil everything about this. But
Yeah.
anyways, what was I about to say?
Spoilers. Yeah, there be spoilers ahead. I guess you were just about to start with the movie.
Was I?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to talk about some predictions, I guess I made about
right.
it.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I did re-listen to the Brothering Around podcast, and I did predict that this was going to end on a major cliffhanger.
Yeah, but your cliffhanger prediction wasn't exactly right.
No, it wasn't, but I did say it was going to be on a major cliffhanger.
I don't think that was going out on that much of a limb, though.
Yeah, but you said that it didn't necessarily have to. But
And it didn't necessarily have to, but I said it still could, and it would still be fine if it did.
Yeah, and I said only one or two characters would end up dying.
Oops.
But
I mean, dying.
yeah, I know.
Whatever,
Yeah,
let's just
we'll
get
go into that for sure. Yeah. As soon as I saw the movie in theaters, I texted Dave immediately, and then we were just like, "Should we do a cast about this?" And we're like, "I think we should." And we're like, "Okay, then we got to stop talking about it." So this is going to be raw conversation also for both of us.
I already forget. We discussed a few things. I already completely forget what we discussed.
Yeah, so this is essentially brand new material.
Whew.
So we'll go ahead and start by just doing how we normally do for movie casts. We just talk about the synopsis. And bear in mind, I've only seen this in theaters once, so I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
But we begin basically after the events of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
With the Asgard survivors on a ship. We start with like a distress signal, and we just see clumps of dead bodies.
Dead Asgardians everywhere.
at the mercy of Thanos.
Thanos and his guys.
And his minion, the black.
I don't know. They're all named after like black stones or something. I don't remember any of their
They're
names.
called the Black Council or something.
I don't know. One of them is named like
Ebony Maw.
Yeah, sure.
So anyways, he's there. Loki and Thor are around. Loki is like trying to like be sneaky and whatnot. But then Hulk comes out, and Hulk gets rocked.
Gets absolutely destroyed.
Hulk gets rocked. And this is the first time we have ever actually seen Hulk lose a fight. He gets straight up KO'd.
Yep.
So Loki is trying to be sneaky again in front of Thanos, but he's also trying to you also see he's like concealing like a weapon, right?
Yeah. So he goes for the throat, and it doesn't go great for him.
No,
Yeah.
he dies.
He died.
He does give up the space stone though to Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos is
like
already
he had that much of a choice.
yeah, very much. Thanos is in now possession of the Power Stone and the Space Stone, and kills Loki, and even says a cheeky line of "No resurrections this time," which might mean that Loki is actually a full-on casualty of this movie.
That would be unfortunate, but I don't think anyone's a full-on casualty of this movie. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Thor presumably dies also at this point in the movie.
Spoiler: he doesn't.
He doesn't. And then we move over to New York.
And I just want to touch on one thing that wasn't a big deal or anything. Don't they like blow up the ship?
Yeah, and somehow Thor survived.
Well, and somehow he later claims like, "Oh, half the Asgardians are still alive."
Yeah,
like it's a throwaway line later. It's like, I'm pretty sure he killed them all. Like, I'm not sure how
that's
he
been
did
something
that.
I've been heard discussed a lot. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what half is. I am alive and I am half of Asgard.
Half of Loki and Thor survived, but you didn't even intend to do that. So
because Thanos power stoned the whole thing.
yeah,
So
it blew up in space.
so
Anyway,
we'll see what that means. Yeah.
Probably nothing.
Heimdall also was on there, and in his like last dying breath, he bifrosts Hulk back down to Earth.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. How he gets down
Hulk
there.
lands in the Sanctum Sanctorum of Doctor Strange in New York, and Bruce Banner is like telling him what's going on.
Yeah, he's freaking out. He's like, Thanos is coming. Yeah.
And so using the Time Stone, they go over to Tony Stark, actually talking to Pepper. Pepper is still around.
Wait, I don't. They didn't go find him, right? Didn't like the space aliens just, oh no, they go find him.
They did, yeah, they did. And they portal him to the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah.
This is the first time we see Tony Stark and Strange interacting with each other.
And it's great.
It's pretty great. They're both
exactly what you
just like jerks to each other to keep it family friendly.
Yeah.
They're both just absolute jerks to each other. But Bruce is really trying to rally them together because he knows
He's
that
like, no, guys, like,
Yeah,
really,
please.
this is a problem.
no, really, stop it. Egos are too, please guys, please.
Yeah.
And so they realize that they need more help as well. So Tony is about to call Steve Rogers with
Good old Cap.
with the phone that
flip
Steve
phone.
Rogers gave him at the end of Civil War.
Yeah.
As he's doing that though, they sense a disturbance. They go out and they see like this big alien ship, which it's funny how they're just like, oh, it's an alien ship. They go out there.
It's always New York. Why is it always New York?
'cause
Whatever.
that's the most amount of wreckage that could happen.
I guess.
Like, why was it always
But
why was it always Tokyo for
I'm not
Godzilla?
saying I'm just saying for the aliens. Like, why are the aliens always like, yes, this is the place to land?
Well, the Sanctum Sanctorum happens to be in New York. That's
Yeah,
their-
I
that's
mean,
their
I'm sure
fault.
I'm sure they could sense the Infinity Stones. They definitely targeted them. I'm not sure how that worked, but they always seem to know exactly where they were.
Yeah,
in like Ireland and New
how
York. Or
simple,
whatever.
right?
I guess. I don't, they have a dragon radar. Just like,
And here,
There it is.
Okay. Oh, it's right here.
yeah, I don't know why they couldn't find the Soul Stone then, but whatever.
Well, it's just we'll get into that again.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, Ebony Maw and like somebody else comes down. So Iron Man suits up in his nanotech armor, which is pretty cool, I think. Very similar to Black Panther's armor.
That's cool.
And Strange comes out and they have a fight. They realize that they're after the Time Stone that Strange has. But Ebony Maw overpowers Strange and takes him prisoner inside his ship. Hulk can't come out either.
Well, he refuses to come out.
Yeah,
basically.
like there's a Jekyll and Hyde sort of half face happening where like, Bruce is trying to be like, all right, time to come out. And then he comes out, like his face just comes out and just goes, no, and just comes back. He's like, what do you mean no?
Yeah.
What do you mean no? That's kind of funny. So Strange is taken out because they can't take out the Time Stone from like his little
Spider-Man
amulet.
shows up.
Spider-Man shows up too, yeah. Strange is taken capture. Ebony Maw just thinks he'll just torture him.
Because like there's a spell on his like little amulet with the Time Stone, so he can't actually get a hold of it without Strange releasing the spell. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Spider-Man is chasing after him on the ship. And Tony is just sort of like, kid, please stop. Like, he's like, yeah, it's getting hard to breathe up here. And so he's like, yeah, no crap. Like, you shouldn't do this. And so he fires out the Iron Spider suit to him. and then like tells him to go home, but of course he doesn't.
Yeah.
Is more Spider-Man Homecoming stuff, but like whatever. I want more superheroes anyways. in this movie,
I
right?
wanted more Spider-Man. So
Yeah,
but,
so they all sneak aboard the ship, and then I think we switch over to someone else.
Vision.
That's
This is where we switch over to Vision and Scarlet Witch.
is that right? Okay.
Yeah, because Cap hasn't showed up yet. So I'm pretty sure that's where we go to next.
Okay, so Vision and Scarlet Witch are like in hiding.
They mentioned it briefly, Stark does, where he's like, call more people. And he's like, well, Steve Rogers hates my guts, and Vision disappeared somehow.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah.
They went into hiding because they want to like be by themselves.
They're having a little tryst with a robot. He's a robot.
He's more than that. He's Jarvis.
Did they give him... Okay, I'm not going to ask that question.
Gross.
Gross.
So they're in Ireland in hiding. Vision can like disguise himself as actually Paul Bettany, so he actually looks human and stuff.
He got to show up in the movie.
Yeah, how about that? Without
Finally.
Yeah. They see on the news that there's a storm coming in New York, so they were like, oh geez.
They're like, should we go? I don't know. I kind of like just chilling here and making out.
Yeah, but
It's
they're probably
like-
going to come for this thing in my head.
I mean, it's
like,
fine,
yeah, but it's the right thing to do.
But
though.
you're really hot, and I just like hanging out with you.
And then they get attacked.
Yeah.
The other minions just end up finding them, and they have this big fight. And they're pretty much getting overpowered as
Vision
well.
just gets poor Vision. The thing with Vision is like he's so overpowered that you can't actually like have him in a fight. So they have to be like, oh yeah, this weapon like really hurts him and prevents him from using any of his powers. And you're like, all right, I guess. But, yeah, so he basically can't do anything.
Scarlet Witch is pretty awesome, though.
Scarlet Witch's powers are like bonkers. Like they're really good, and the actress is good. Like she does it well. Yeah, she's fun. She's cool.
One little minor thing is that people were noting that her like her accent is gone from this movie.
Oh, I didn't actually notice that.
Yeah, because I remember in Civil War, it's all talk like this, and I am Scarlet Witch, and Vision.
She's just acclimating,
Then they say like, oh, Vision like changed her voice or something so that she can talk normally.
I think she just
or
got
something.
acclimated to the whatever. To
Boy,
the
that was
talking
fast.
style.
Well, how come she didn't? And whatever.
She's got psychic powers.
Anyways,
Don't worry about it.
So they have this big fight in the train yard, and then they're again about to be completely overpowered, and they're about to take the time stone away from Vision, which is presumably going to kill him. Well, it is going to kill him.
Yeah.
But then who should show up to save the day but Steve Rogers
Good old Cap.
and Falcon and Black Widow?
Yeah.
They don't.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that entrance.
Cap is just still awesome. Like, there's just something about Cap and like Chris, like Evan's portrayal of him that like Cap is just always going to be awesome when he makes that dramatic entrance. There's nothing that's not cliche about it, but he's just Cap. Like,
I think it's
still
like,
awesome.
I think it's because he's still like human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he's still the leader. He's still the one where you're like, Cap's gonna fix this mess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree with you though.
But
Like,
just
I felt-
it's a pretty awesome characterization. It is awesome that they have conveyed that with this character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So they all reconvene. They all go back to the old Avengers hideout where Rhodey,
Machine, yeah.
Rhodey is still back there, like in a talk with the same old government stuffies. The rest
What
of
are
the
they even
event,
trying to get him to do?
I don't know.
It's like, guys, I'm literally the only one here. What do you want me to go get Vision? Do you know what that guy can do? I'm in a second-rate Iron Man suit. Like, what do you want? And my legs barely. What do you want me to do? Apparently, they expect him to do whatever because he's in the Air Force or something.
And so the people come back, and like the hologram sees him, and he's just like, arrest them. And
And again, it's like, I'm one dude.
Well, like Rhodey's all like, you got it, and then turns off, and then he's like, hey, great to see you guys. Like, isn't it? Yeah, that was kind of cool, I guess, just to show that the government is still the worst.
Yeah,
As in
it's
all.
nice to see that everyone's like, yeah, it turns out Tony's idea was terrible. Who knew? Like even Rhodey, who's like in the Air Force. I mean, so was Falcon. But we're actually gonna have random side note after the events of Captain Marvel, assuming they stay with the general storyline behind it. We're gonna have 3 members of the Air Force in the Avengers. So that's some nice Air Force military representation. No other branches, but
Hey,
go Air Force.
sure.
Oh yeah, the Army obviously with Cap, but and Buck.
Also, okay, so then they're talking about what they need to do. They know they're after Vision's time stone. Vision is straight up just like, guys, just take it, or actually just destroy it, you know.
Yeah.
And they're all like, that's going to kill you. He's like, yeah, but at least they won't have the full
They
gauntlet.
won't blow up the entire universe. I forget. Do they know like what Thanos is planning to do, or they just know like Thanos bad? Don't let him have these.
I think they know Thanos bad. Don't let him have these.
I forget when it actually comes out, where he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna destroy half of everything."
That I think comes out with the Guardians,
Okay.
And Tony Stark, but not these people in particular.
Okay.
I think they just know Thanos bad. All stones not good.
Yeah.
So Cap makes a speech about like, we don't trade lives for this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
But then they're all like, there might be technology.
But
to
then they're like,
success.
"But Vision's a robot, so who cares?"
It's like there might be technology to get the stone out safely, and they're like, "Oh, where's that going to be?" And then you hear like talking drums in the background. It's like, "Oh, it's Wakanda time."
Yeah. But
Throughout
I don't
this,
think we go there right away.
no, because there's still a subplot with the Guardians and Thor.
Yeah.
So the Guardians of the Galaxy are out doing their thing. They're about to receive a distress signal from the Asgard ship, but they actually fly into Thor, who survived, but he's a god, so he can survive in space.
I guess.
They bring him back in. He's in a coma, and so they I forget how they revive him. They shock him or something.
Oh, I think it's Mantis does something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, Mantis does something. They wake him up, and so now we get some beautiful banter between
It's
Star-Lord and Thor.
It's awesome.
Because
okay, let me stop it. I'm not sure how much I like this new characterization of Thor, where he's like kind of an idiot, but like just on the cusp of like breaking the fourth wall all the time. It's a style that they sort of started in Ragnarok, and when I said that it was kind of Guardians of the Galaxy, that's basically what I was talking about. And so this new characterization of Thor, where he's gone from being like the very serious, like I am the son of Odin, blah blah blah, to borderline goofball, just sort of in his own world type thing. I'm not entirely convinced by that I like it, but it works great in this scene, right? It works great in his interaction with
it works
Star-Lord.
great. I don't know if I would characterize it as goofball, though. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And
He's not like intentionally a goofball. He's just like, but he says this stuff that's like, it's too funny to like really believe he's oblivious, but you're supposed to think that he's just oblivious and just full of himself. Like,
yeah.
I'm just not sure I like it.
I know what you're saying. I hear it too, but I really didn't like his I am Odin's son, Thor, yada yada. Like I kind of welcome
It
this
was
like
too
change.
much, but I think they went too much in the other direction.
I see what you're saying, but I don't know
It
if I
didn't kill anything for me,
No.
but I was very aware of it. That's all.
because you're right. It's beautifully paired in this movie.
Yes.
He's just this like beefcake. I think Drax calls him like an angel with like the body of a. What does he say? He
I
says
don't
something
know. I
hilarious.
think Gamora makes some comment like, "Oh, his muscles are like they're made of titanium," and Star was like, "All right, that's enough."
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff happening.
Yeah, it's
there.
great.
So Thor
He
explains.
calls Rocket a rabbit.
Yeah. So Thor knows what Thanos is up to, though. So he does share that with the Guardians. He's saying that Thanos is after all the Infinity Stones, and if he possesses all the Infinity Stones, he can destroy half of the universe with just a snap.
Yeah.
So he says that he needs to go to this old like Star Forge, where they create these weapons, and only Rocket knows what that is and like where that is. So he and Thor sort of get like,
Does he?
befriend.
No, he didn't actually know. I think he and Thor just kind of liked each other, and Rocket loved the fact that Thor pissed off Peter so
No,
much.
Rocket was all like, that place exists? And
okay,
Thor
okay.
was like, yeah, hey, this guy knows what it is, So they go off into a pod, Thor and Groot, they go off into a pod to this place, leaving the rest of the Guardians there. Gamora, like, when hearing Thanos' plan, all of a sudden gets very quiet and like apprehensive.
They discuss, because Thor knows where all three are, right? He's like, one of them is, or they all know where all three are. They're like, one of them is at nowhere.
Yeah.
One of them's with this other guy. One of them's on Earth. So they're like, well, why don't we go to Earth? And Thor's like, no, the Avengers are there. And they're like, who? He's like, no, they got that. Earth's mightiest warriors. And they're like, okay. So they basically split up, where they go after the Reality Stone, I think.
Yeah, they go up to the Reality Stone at
this
nowhere.
part's really, I watched Ragnarok and both Guardians of the Galaxy, and there's still too many planets for me to keep track of. Like, I don't really get where the stones were. I just remember one of them was called Nowhere, and I don't really remember hearing that before.
Nowhere was in the first Guardians.
This is sort of the portion where it's really tough to keep track of like all the lore that's been out there, because the first Guardians was a while ago, and it's not like we've been back there since, right?
We have not. That's right.
It again, fairly minor. They're in space, going to space places, doing space things. But if you're actually trying to track it, and they do kind of the same thing as Civil War, where they'll slap the location of where they are on the screen. I don't know if it's just the font, because the font was definitely better, but it didn't bother me as much in this movie as it did in Civil War.
Civil War was very much like China, Malaysia.
Yeah. Turns out fonts make a difference, I guess. There you go, Corey.
Oh, jeez. I don't think he's listening.
What a jerk. Well, he's not listening, so he's got to take that.
Well,
he's got to hold that.
Now I'll just have to link this to him.
You should. He deserves it. Anyway.
Text me when you get to this spot, Corey.
Anyway, it's fine. It's tough to keep track of all this stuff, but like you don't really need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a discussion, Gamora and Peter Quill. They have a discussion because Gamora, she basically just says like, if Thanos gets to me, you need to kill me.
Yeah.
And of course that's really hard for Quill to take in. But like eventually he's like, okay, I promise.
Yeah. And they make out, and it's like, you've resolved the sexual tension.
Well, and then it's dispelled really easily with a nice Drax moment.
Drax is just standing there.
I perfected the art of invisibility. No, you haven't. You're right there.
I'm moving so slowly, you can't perceive me. It is good. Yeah.
It's good old Drax. I love Drax.
Did you know in the comics he's a lot more relevant than he is in this?
Oh, really?
Apparently in the comics he can like fly and shoot energy blasts.
Oh.
And he's not just some guy with a knife.
But he's amazing with a knife, though.
I mean, I guess. He's never really done anything that amazing. But
no.
I mean, it's very minor.
But you can't have the Guardians without him, though,
No, I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. I just wish he could shoot some lasers out of his hand. That's all I'm saying.
Well, maybe sometime.
Maybe someday.
I think moving over to Nowhere, they go to Nowhere, and it's like, because they have to go to the Collector. And it's all in complete disarray, and they see Thanos there talking to the Collector, trying to get the stone. So then Gamora, actually Drax is about to like completely ruin it because he's overcome with rage. Because of course, if you remember from the first Guardians, his whole thing is to kill Thanos. That's like the only reason why he's still around.
I don't remember when this flashback happens of Thanos on Gamora's planet.
This happens a little bit after.
Okay, but you eventually realize this is whole Thanos' thing. Like he kills half the population on a planet and then leaves the other half. It's completely arbitrary. So I guess that's what he did to Drax's planet, and his wife and kid were among those. So is that about right?
Yeah. Okay, that's just the construction downstairs. I was like, what is that? I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're redoing the kitchen downstairs.
I saw that when I was coming out. Is that gonna be a problem? Oh well.
Yeah, that's what he does. Yeah. Okay, so they're on Nowhere. Drax almost completely blows their cover, and so Thanos is like walking over towards there, and then Gamora does like a surprise attack and kills him, slits his throat. And he's all like,
I think we must have seen that scene before now, because she uses the knife that he gave her.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're totally right. She actually discusses this with Peter on the ship when she makes the promise. Yeah. Okay.
So there's, like, the nice...
so they do a flashback of Gamora when she's a kid, like with her mom, and like Thanos and this like army is just like pulling people out of their houses and like lining them up. At some point, Gamora loses her mom, but like Thanos is there and is just like,
he just
like
really likes her for some reason.
Yeah, like, what are you doing, little one? And like is like kind to her, because I guess she was like she like beat herself away from one of the people pulling her away and stuff.
Like throughout the movie, Thanos' big thing is like will. Like you have to have the will to do these things that need to be done. Mm-hmm. And so I guess she shows enough will that he really likes her, and so he takes her away and like teaches her about balance, which is his big thing. And
he
like,
pulls out this like butterfly
balanced
knife and like says like how perfectly balanced this knife is. And
why he has that on his person, I'll never know. I don't think he really needs that.
So he like gives it to her, like, go ahead, try quiet. And then like that's when like his army kills half of the planet population. It's just like, no, just keep watching over here, you know?
Yeah.
And then like takes her in like as his own. And like at this point we're seeing like he actually seems to really care about her. At least as some sort of like adoptive
Kind
like
of,
person.
yeah.
You know, but that's all we get. You know, Gamora is still like a girl. Gamora, you know, still says like how badly he treated her still, like, you know, made her basically like a fighting slave and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, you're right. That's what happens because she goes over and surprise attacks him and like cuts his throat with that same knife.
Yeah.
He's like dying and is like, you know, my daughter, why? But like,
Why?
but like Gamora is like also like is like shattered.
crying,
She's
yeah.
like crying and like, you know, she falls to her knees and stuff.
Reality Stone. Turns out he already had it. So I said before in our discussion, I was like, this movie never surprised me. And in some of the scenes where it tried to surprise me, it just like dragged on too long because it was obvious what was going on. This scene was not that. Obviously, I knew Thanos was not dead.
Sure.
But it never occurred to me that he was literally recreating reality. So that was cool.
Yeah.
This was a cool scene.
I agree.
That just showed how busted overpowered he already was.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like, of course, he's not actually dead. So you're
Yeah.
trying to see what like the twist is, you know. And this was a pretty cool twist.
Yeah.
So yeah, he already has the reality stone. That sucks. Drax runs out to try to like just attack him anyways, and he turns Drax into a bunch of blocks.
He totally pulls a Jafar.
Yeah,
That was
that's
exactly
right.
where Jafar is like, things are unraveling for you, boy. And I was like, that's exactly what I thought of. I was like, wow. Because he does this like the same thing to Mantis, basically.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, cool.
So then Quill comes out, and like Gamora's like, Peter, now. And so like, and you know, Thanos gets what's going on. He's like, oh, he can't do it. And like,
like,
even
oh,
like
it's the boyfriend.
Yeah. And even like
Right.
presents her like for him and stuff. This is actually honestly this is one thing that did surprise me. I was like, maybe he's going to alter reality to like bring her back to life or something.
Yeah, you weren't really sure. Because you were like, this is the classic villain hubris, right?
Yeah.
Where like it actually goes wrong for him, but you're like, it's too early in the movie for that. So you weren't really sure what was going on. And after quite a while, Peter eventually, like, you know, they say like, I love you too, whatever. And he pulls the trigger and then like bubbles come out because Thanos can just manipulate reality however the heck he wants now. So at this point, you're just like, man, we are screwed.
Yeah. So then they teleport away and they, you know, Drax and Mantis are put back to normal and stuff.
Somehow.
Oh man. At this point, I think we're taken back to the ship where Doctor Strange was on, and Tony Stark and Spidey are infiltrating. So they see that Strange is being tortured by Ebony Maw.
And not a lot actually happens. He's being tortured, and there's an alien reference,
Well,
and he gets sucked out the ship.
because like the cloak is still there, like Strange's sentient cloak. Which I guess you did need to see the movie to understand.
Yeah, I
what
was
this
a little
is.
confused by that, but I was just like,
The cloak is
magic.
basically
It's
magic
cool.
carpet.
Yeah,
Just think of it that way.
Yeah.
So then Spidey is there and you're like, you know, so what should we do? And he was all like, I've got it. Have you guys seen that old movie Aliens?
Yeah.
Which is a callback to his thing in Civil War when he takes down giant Ant-Man.
Yeah,
Like
you
the
ever seen that really old
1880s.
movie, Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back?
So what they do basically is that they come on out and they blow a hole in the ship, sucking out Ebony Maw, killing him.
I was a little disappointed with how easily he went out, but
Ebony
fine.
Maw is pretty OP though.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, but it was cool having him. I don't know.
yeah. So they save him, they save Strange, yada yada, and
And
then
I'm
they're
like,
just,
well, now what?
yeah. Well, they were all like, okay, well now we need to go back to New York. But then Tony Stark is like, wait a minute, this ship is going to Thanos, and we're trying to stop Thanos from coming to Earth. He won't be expecting this. So why don't we just go over there? And you know,
Strange is like, what is wrong?
yeah,
with
because
you?
Strange is not an Avenger per se yet, and his job in life is to protect the Time Stone.
Yeah.
And he even says that to Tony after agreeing to the plan. He's just like, I will not hesitate to let you die if it means saving the Time Stone. Do we
Yeah.
understand? And Tony's like, yeah, sure, like that. Peter, Spidey has some wonderful lines in here too. He just
Probably
like,
my favorite line of the whole movie is when he introduces like, "Hey, I'm Peter Parker." And
I'm
he's
Doctor
like,
Strange. Oh, we're using made up names now? Oh, I'm Spider-Man.
Strange just stares at him like, That was definitely the greatest moment.
Because I don't know if you know, but Strange is actually his last name.
Yes, that is actually his name.
Okay,
He is actually a doctor.
I didn't know if you knew that. So
Yes, I did know that, but
okay,
thank you.
okay, fair enough,
Yeah,
fair
yeah,
enough. Okay, and then I think there's some scenes after this, but where I'm going really out of order. But at this point, also they crash.
There's a lot of jumping around, but let me pause here. So when they did this when you realize what they were doing, right? When they were just going to have different people split up into different sections and they were probably never going to actually all be in the same place. My initial thought was like,
cheated.
yeah.
Yeah.
My initial thought was like, oh, that's kind of dumb and you kind of cheated. Like, I want to see them all in the same place, but it all worked.
Still did.
Yeah, because Tony Stark with Doctor Strange was awesome, and Peter Parker added to that was great, and Thor with the Guardians was fantastic, and later on when the Guardians meet up with Stark, it's awesome, right? And like they all sort of have their own vibe. Like the groups that's with Cap is all very serious and militaristic, right? But it just sort of shifts the tone in those sections to match with them. And it works because you've got, ex-military Black Widow and King of Wakanda, who's also leader of the army. And you've got Bucky and Cap and like all these military men. And it works. At first it feels like they cheated because you don't get to see that intermingling. But it just would have, I can totally see how that would have been too bloated. Like how that would have been so hard to get it to work. So the groups they split them up in all really work, and kudos to them for knowing the characters well enough to do it in this way.
Yeah.
But it worked. And so there's a lot of jumping around, but somehow it never really feels fragmented. Like as we're doing this, I'm like, my gosh, we're not even that far in this movie and we're like jumping all over the place, but it works. It's done very well.
I definitely thought that while watching the movie that we're jumping around quite a bit. And I was like, but I'm not bored, and I'm also not
confused.
Yeah, I'm not at all. Like I remember we see quite a bit after Strange is taken captive. And the whole time I'm still I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, but what about Doctor Strange? I know that's coming back, but we'll see what happens. And I also did not expect Strange and Tony Stark and stuff like that to run into the Guardians of the Galaxy. When that happened, I was like, okay, this is getting great. Yeah. So that's what happens eventually. Just getting back to the story, they crash into them or something, or they decide to go to Titan, which I'm not quite clear if that's like the moon Jupiter Titan or if it's some other Titan, because apparently they can breathe. I'm pretty sure it's some other Titan. Yeah,
but this is
Thanos' home planet.
Yeah, and so it turns out that the Guardians had the same idea because Peter's ready to go F up Thanos
for taking Gamora.
Yeah, and so they just all sort of run into each other on Titan, and there's a great misunderstanding scene where they all kind of fight each other. At first, you're like, oh, this is the classic misunderstanding. It's kind of dumb, but on the other hand, it's cool to see Star-Lord get to do his thing against Tony Stark and stuff like that.
There's a great fight scene amongst all of them. Really, it's sort of a meme now, but it was definitely my favorite line and my wife's favorite line is when they were when they all have each other in an impasse. Quill's all like, "Where is Gamora?" And Tony Stark is like, "I have one better. Who is Gamora?" And Drax is like, "I have one better. Why is Gamora?" Only Drax could have said that line.
That's true.
Spidey couldn't have said that line.
Yeah.
Only Drax could have said that line. Yeah.
And there are some great lines there where he's like, "Oh, you're from Earth. Is Footloose still the greatest movie ever made?"
It never was.
Peter just gives him this absolutely "I will kill you" look.
Just the way Peter Parker delivers that, it never was. They say things like how they ran into Thor too, and Peter Quill's like, "Yeah, this is not so good looking guy in distress that we had to save." So, good stuff. Their personalities blend very well. We saw a little bit of it in the trailers, but it's so much better.
I'm glad that
really
it wasn't just it was all spoiled in the trailers, you know? Yeah.
So they all realize they need to band together, and they're about to come up with a plan. I do believe this is also the time where Strange decides to look at all possibilities.
Yeah, that starts to happen. There's a couple, I think somewhere in here we cut away to the Star and also back to Wakanda. Those things happen.
Let's finish the scene first, and
okay.
then we'll go back for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember the order of these at all.
Yeah, me neither. I apologize to anybody else. So, Strange looks at all possibilities and finds that out of 14 million-ish possibilities, there's only one where they win. I like how he doesn't share with everybody what happens.
A lot of people. So I've heard a couple. One of the podcasts I listen to, they do a little bit of a discussion, and one of the people on that, the podcast name is Weak Sauce with Garrett and Kyle Ferguson. Garrett Weinzer and Kyle Ferguson. They do a Heroes of the Storm podcast. I like their stuff, so I listen to it. And so Kyle is just a massive fan of wizards and just being a wizard. And Doctor Strange does a great job of just being the wizard in this movie, where he like always knows what's going on more than anybody else, but he doesn't really share it, right?
Yeah.
Like he is a step ahead and he's got the big picture in mind. And he's just very mysterious and like, what is going on with this guy? Like, what does he know? And he does a great job of doing that throughout the whole movie. So his performance and his part in this is really, really well done. But yeah, he tells them there's only one. He doesn't tell them which one it is, but they wind up going with, because there's a lot of alpha males in here, right? Because Tony Stark's like, I'm the leader. And Peter's like, excuse me, I am the leader. I am Star-Lord. It's like, so they argue for a bit, but they wind up going with Star-Lord's plan. Not that it really matters. But.
Yeah. So let's jump back over to the star, because Thor and Rocket make it to the star.
There's like a little scene in here where Thor is like having some insecurity issues, right? And it's nice. It's not overbearing. It's interesting that they decided that Rocket was the one who was going to deal with this, but again, it works surprisingly. And like Thor is just like, I can't lose. Like, I'm Thor. Like, he can't beat me. And he's like, he already whooped you. He's like, well, no one's ever beaten Thor twice. And Rocket's like, okay, buddy. Like, that's sort of what's going on. So he's still got a little bit of that bravado in him, but you know, Rocket gives him a spare eye. He's got laying around. So that's nice.
Again, just beautiful.
Yeah.
Of course, just keeping in line with Rocket's strange obsession with keeping prosthetic limbs and body parts and stuff.
Yeah.
Great
like
stuff.
that.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
So this star is also a forge for like the universe's greatest weapons. That's where Mjolnir was created. Yeah. And
turns out that's where the Infinity Gauntlet was created.
Yeah. Thanos basically gets these dwarves who are also like 10 feet tall.
Actually giants.
He forces them to create the Infinity Gauntlet, like a gauntlet that can wield all 6 stones.
Yeah,
safely.
so there's only like one of them left, and I don't remember his name other than he's Peter Dinklage. Yeah. Is that weird?
I remember hearing
that
people
he's playing
saying like
a dwarf who was a giant. Like, is that racist? I don't know.
I mean, like it kind of is, but he also didn't play a dwarf character in Days of Future Past, so. It kind of evens out. I don't know. It
was just so weird. It's like, wait, they actually cast Peter Dinklage as a dwarf who is actually a giant. I'm just so confused.
I can't.
Like, he's great and I'm enjoying him, but I'm just like,
I can't speak for the wills of little people.
Yeah,
I'm just, but all I can say is that his performance is great.
Yeah, it was.
So basically, Asgard is tasked with protecting this Star Forge. But they don't, because Asgard is dead, and Thanos, also as soon as the Infinity Gauntlet is done, kills the Forge, like closes the iris and like stops it and yada yada.
Yeah.
So, but they're here because they know that only this place can create a weapon capable of killing Thanos, called the Stormbreaker. They even have the mold for it and everything, but they can't open they can't start the fire of the star again.
Yeah. So there's a big thing where he has to like stand in the thing holding it open while the power of the star blasts him.
They have to Rocket has to
they have to get it spinning again.
Yeah, so like Rocket tows Thor spins Rocket around inside the pod or something. Whatever. They get it working again. But the iris closes before the forge can be fully melted again. So Thor has to stand in the iris to manually keep it open. But he's a god, so he can take it.
It's fine.
And so they make the weapon, but they're missing the handle. So teenage Groot, who's just an absolute snotty teenager this whole time.
Yeah, for some reason this weapon also has the power to instantly heal Thor and has the power of the Bifrost. It's pretty busted. It's pretty awesome.
It really is. But anyways, so they have it here that's missing the handle, but Groot finally steps up and uses his own regrow tree arm to create the handle of it, which is it's nice.
It gives it a pretty awesome look, that's for
sure. Okay, so now we jump back over to Wakanda, I believe.
I mean, we had seen the stuff at Wakanda before the weapons finished.
Yeah,
the weapon thing is kind of split up into 2 parts.
Yeah, I think we're jumping back to Wakanda now.
Yeah.
So actually, no, we need to go to the Soul Stone.
Oh yeah.
No, actually, let's talk Soulstone.
Okay.
So Gamora, my goodness. So
We
Gamora
didn't
is
start
in
the timer. We should have, but whatever. We're just gonna talk until we're done.
Sure. So Gamora is in Thanos' custody. Thanos is like trying to be nice again or whatever. We don't know if he's just trying to sweet talk her or not, but he's trying to get the location of the Soul Stone out of her, and she's saying like, I
Like
don't.
she was supposed to find it on a mission, and like she came back and said it failed. But he's like, "Come on, I know you didn't fail."
Yeah.
And then
So what we come to find is that Thanos actually also has Nebula in prison also, and is like torturing her by like.
'cause apparently she almost pulled off killing him. So good for her.
And he's like slowly dismembering her because they looked into like her like memory files, and there's a file of Gamora telling Nebula that she knows where it is, but she destroyed like the map of
She
it.
found the map. She never actually found the stone, which
yeah.
is why she could keep saying, I never found it. But she found a map to it and destroyed it.
Yeah.
So she knows where it is.
Thanos is all like, I taught you many things. I taught you, yada, yada, yada. But I never taught you to lie. That
Because
is why
you were
you are
terrible
bad at it, So, eventually, Nebula in pain gets it. Basically, Thanos' whole deal is torturing people until people tell, like, locations or whatever like that. And,
I guess it never really comes up that many times.
well, it happens here.
Yeah.
And so, Gamora finally says, like, fine, it said place in place, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So they go to place in place, and who should be like the keeper of it but Red Skull?
Why was he there?
Now, everybody was apparently very mystified by this. I was like, okay.
I mean, I was fine with it, but I was also mystified by it. Like, the only thing they ever say to show like why he's there is he like, you're hunting all the Infinity Stones, and Red Skull's like, yeah, I wanted that once too. I had one once. That was pretty cool. Good luck. That's it.
He was like, yes, I had one. It didn't go well.
Yeah,
that's why I'm here. So you want the Soul Stone? Yeah, I'll show you.
I don't remember how Red Skull died. I should have looked that up if it had anything to do with one of the Infinity Stones.
It did. He wielded the Space Stone in the Tesseract.
Right.
And it like basically consumed him. And that's what he said, is that he was deemed unworthy to wield any of the stones, and as retribution, he's now like the quote unquote keeper of the Soul Stone.
It's just kind of weird. Like it could have been Loki. Loki had a stone. I guess he didn't die by it.
But he's a god.
It wasn't a big deal. It
No.
was just like, all right.
Apparently, a lot of the more devout MCU fans were like going crazy over it, but I was like, okay.
I guess they just had money left over in the budget to hire that big name actor, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come on and be Red Skull
Well,
again?"
funny
after
story, it
10
wasn't
years?
actually him. It was Hugo Weaving who was the original Red Skull. But it wasn't actually
I thought
him.
his voice sounded really
It
different.
was a really good impersonator. I'm not kidding. It was a
Why would
really
they-
good impersonator.
okay, whatever.
I think Hugo Weaving like wanted to distance himself.
I mean, he literally hasn't been in any of these movies for like a decade.
No.
That was the weirdest thing. Like, of all, why would you bring him back? I don't know.
It might have
It doesn't
something to do
really
with
matter.
comics, I don't know.
I just whatever.
Anyway, so they go forth and they go to this cliff because Red Skull says that in order to get the Soul Stone, you must sacrifice something that you love.
This was the point where I immediately knew what was going to happen, and they dragged it on so long with Gamora being like, "Ha, you can't get
Yeah.
it. Oh, you're crying." And I'm like, Gamora, shut up.
Well,
like,
Gamora is like, huh, you don't love anything.
Yeah.
And like, so this is where you meet your end and yada yada. Then he like turns around, there's like a tear going on his eye, and she's like, see, you're crying. And Red Skull's like, he's not crying for himself.
Red Skull's like,
And then all of a sudden Gamora's like, no. No. No.
and then he throws her off the
He
cliff.
throws her off the cliff. And they actually
Now,
they do focus on her slightly broken body also.
This scene did drag on a bit.
It did, yeah.
Because it was so obvious what was going to happen, and she was so oblivious that you had to spend all this time showing how oblivious she was while Thanos was getting all emotional. We'll have to get back to what the characterization of Thanos was. It's hard to tell if they wanted to make him sympathetic or not. I don't think they pull that off, but he definitely has motivations that are consistent, and he is a good character. But if they were also trying to make him sympathetic, they did not succeed. I don't know how much they were trying to do.
That is probably the weakest part of his character, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, why does he like actually care about Gamora?
Yeah.
Like, Gamora has, and also like Gamora speaks nothing but ill about him. And she's like crying that she killed him like
weird.
initially.
Sam, my wife was really interested in this because it was like, yeah, Thanos obviously did not actually love her in the sense that he ever put her above himself. But in his twisted way of like caring for something, I'm sure he perceived it as love, right? And that's, I guess, what they were going for. But it's sort of an unexplored aspect of the movie, which is fine because it would have been really bloated if they had, but it doesn't make this scene good. And
it'll probably come back in the next one. There's theories that Gamora is actually in the Soul Stone.
Apparently they've actually confirmed this.
Oh, really?
When I was talking to one of my buddies from church, he was like, every time we were talking about that, he like couldn't wait to bring up like, yeah, the producer said that she's actually stuck in the stone. I'm like, producers, shut up. That is the kind of thing that I don't want to hear from your mouth. I'm like, this is exactly like the Frozen guys been like, yeah, Tarzan totally is linked with that. Like, no, show me it in your movie. Leave that for the next movie. I don't
people
need
in
to know
suspense.
that. Yeah,
Keep them in suspense.
There's no reason we need to know that. But apparently, yes, she is in the Soul Stone realm, whatever that is. It's pretty disappointing that the Soul Stone is like, they make a big deal of it where like it has a special place among the Infinity Stones. We've never seen it before.
Yeah.
He never uses it. It just is sort of in his gauntlet and presumably giving him power over something.
Yeah, like what can you manipulate with the Soul Stone?
Do?
Like,
I don't know.
Can you just like kill people on a whim? Like
he doesn't do that, that's for sure.
Does he know everybody's souls? I mean, that's what people are saying. That's how we knew who Stark was personally.
I mean, I feel like he remembers Stark from when he like
when he blew up in the Avengers. Yeah, that also came around too. I don't have the answer.
The only thing that I was hoping for something different in this scene, and it wasn't busted up that didn't happen. I was hoping we would go back to the whole death thing, because in the lore, Thanos' thing is always he's trying to court death, the actual character death. We have not seen death yet, to my knowledge, but a reference to this was made at the end of the first Avengers movie when he was announced, when one of his dudes came back and was like, stop attacking Earth. To do that is to court death. And Thanos is like, oh, baby, you don't even know. And so I was kind of hoping, because that's in like the expanded, in like the comics, that is his love, right?
Yeah.
It's death.
Yeah.
That's what he's after. So I was hoping that we would get something to that, like he would have to give up the ability to die or something weird, or it had to something. I'm not saying that's what it should have been. I was hoping they would do something with it. But throughout the movie, we never get any reference to death or his relationship or obsession or anything like that with her. Well, but I guess she is going to be in the next movie.
Yeah, fully admittedly, his characterization,
weird.
People have said that his characterization from the comic books to the movies is a little different. In the comic books, he was more just kill people, but in the movie, he's kind of more. He
has this weird obsession. It's all about balance. It's all about two things with Thanos: balance and will. And you need to have the will to take action to bring balance. Is sort of his thing, and it's actually communicated very well. He is a very well realized character. Which is impressive. The way I was explaining it to Sam, if any of you are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, Thanos is an excellent example of a lawful evil bad guy. And there are very few lawful evil bad guys realized in films and media. Yeah. The reason for this is, like, Joker is the stereotypical chaotic evil, right?
Yeah.
He does evil things like for the sake of chaos. Like, that's sort of his motivator, right? When you have a pure evil character, they just want evil for the sake of evil. But with a character like Thanos, he makes evil actions for the sake of his law.
Yeah.
For what he views as how things should be. And then it doesn't make him less evil because his actions are evil, and he obviously doesn't value life, which is sort of the hallmark of evil in like the generic, not centered on Judeo-Christian value stuff. It pretty much comes down to, do you value other characters in their like right to live? No, then you're evil. And that's fine. That works very well. But like, he doesn't do it just to take away their right to live. He does it because you have to bring balance. Like, this is how the universe needs to run. No one else is going to get it there, so I'm going to do it by any means necessary. And there are a great example of lawful evil villains in like in a comic strip called Order of the Stick. It's a great Dungeons and Dragons comic strip. If you're interested, go check it out. But one of the characters' fathers comes back, and he's a great lawful lawful evil character because he's so obsessed with things have to be this way. And that's what sort of drives him to be evil. He's like, the world needs to run this way and everybody else can't figure it out. So you know what? I'm going to take it on myself to get it figured out. And Thanos does a great job of that. And having that consistent motivation and being able to establish that is really hard. That's why you don't have good lawful evil villains in most movies. But Thanos does it really well. It's very clearly articulated. It has to do with his view, like his own moral code, so to speak. He's just evil in doing it. And it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why Thanos works. He doesn't become sympathetic because you don't really believe he cares for Gamora. You don't feel bad for him for having to sacrifice Gamora, you know? You never feel
No,
sorry
I mean,
for
like,
him.
I think they try to push it because he's always
they
like,
do a
I've
little bit.
experienced loss.
Yes.
And that not only just refers to Gamora, but it refers to some other things apparently in his life.
Well,
but like
his home that like, he gets into that where he's like, I told them they needed to slaughter half the population. They didn't listen to me. And they're like, gee, I wonder why.
Well, let's get into that then. So, skipping some more Wakanda stuff, we'll get back to it though. He goes back to Titan. He just teleports back to Titan.
Because again, he just knows where the time stone is, I guess.
Yeah, and there's Doctor Strange just like meditating or whatever, and they have a little repartee a little bit, like, or not repartee, just they talk a little bit. Thanos then like uses the Reality Stone to like tell his backstory of like Titan used to be this like wonderful paradise, utopia, whatever, and then they realized they were losing resources because their population was too big, and Thanos like, I got it, guys. What if we just kill half of the population? And they were like, no.
But we'll do it fair, like, well, there's no bias, rich, poor, doesn't matter. We'll just split them right down the middle, half them die, half them live.
No. No.
Come on, it'll be a good time.
Whatever. Let's just think of something else. But they don't, and Titan eventually becomes this huge wasteland, and that sort of motivates Thanos in this, he's like, I have the will to do
he was like,
this.
they didn't have the will to do what needed to be done, even if it wasn't pleasant. I have the will.
So he claims, he goes around planets doing this all the time, and he claims, like, even in Gamora's planet, like, it's now a paradise. Like, everybody has full bellies, and everybody, has enough resources, more than enough resources to live, and yada, yada. And, like, everybody else is always just like, you don't get to make this decision. He's like, that's why I have the will to do it. Yada, yada.
It's like, well, if I have all the Infinity Stones, I sure can.
So a fight ensues. They basically create this plan where they're able to subdue him enough so that Mantis can get onto him and make him like sleep. As she's able to do. She can't make him sleep all the way, but like, gets him well enough so that they can try to get the glove off of him. As they're doing this, Mantis is able to feel, because she's an empath, just like, he's feeling great agony, yada, yada. Peter Quill comes up to him and is like, trying to say like, where is Gamora? Where is Gamora? Because she obviously didn't return back. And then he pieces them together.
He keeps saying like, oh, he feels like such tragedy and stuff. And he's like, you son of a, like, you don't feel anything. Like, what'd you do with her? And then Nebula kind of puts it together.
Yeah.
I forget how Nebula escapes. She winds up here. She like sends out a distress signal telling them to go there, I think, or something.
No, she just like flies out there. She escapes the bonds.
She sent a message to the Guardians. It's like, go to this planet or something.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
But whatever.
I did forget that. But yeah, she is there. You're right though.
Yeah.
So then Star-Lord loses it and like tries to like shoot at him.
Just starts beating his face.
Yeah,
basically.
and that gets Mantis off of him, and so he gains his consciousness again.
Like right when they're about to get the glove off.
Yeah.
It's all very.
So a lot of people have blamed Star-Lord for like completely wrecking this whole plan, but
I mean, look, I was partially sad that it had to be Star-Lord because I love his character and I don't want him to be the bad guy. But let's be real, this was totally in character.
It was totally in character.
Right. And the other thing you have to keep the other thing you have to keep in mind that like makes it all okay is that Doctor Strange always knew.
Yeah, he doesn't intervene through any of this.
He's actually like not even helping in any way. I don't think. Yeah,
no,
he's just not. Like he's just kind of watching, like, yeah, go guys.
He's like,
I mean, he helps in the fight, but in that moment, he's just kind of like, yeah,
right, because
do it.
Presumably, yeah, he knows. Like he's like, yes.
Punch him.
Yes.
Punch him again. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
Got it.
Gotta move.
Yeah.
So yeah, Thanos basically he blows up a moon,
and then he's like, all right, now I'm going to blow up this moon. I'm like, for future reference, maybe lead with that. That's pretty good. Like, in terms of the things you can do, that's up there.
So he's rocking everyone. It all ends up with Tony Stark. This is actually a great fight between Thanos and Tony Stark.
And just everybody, really.
Well, sure, but
Because this Doctor Strange just have some moments to do his crazy wizard stuff, and you're like, wow, this guy's busted too. So that's cool.
I really did enjoy the fight though with Tony Stark and Thanos. Tony actually manages to get him to bleed, but he's like, all that just for one drop of blood. Thanos is wrecking Tony's armor, and he's got all these backups and yada yada. Thanos finally is able to stab him with
Impale
something.
him,
yeah. Thanos says the line, he's all like, I respect you, Stark.
He says I respect your will, Stark.
Yeah.
Because of this, I'll let half of Earth live or something like that.
Well, no, he says when I kill half of humanity, I hope they remember you, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or when you're gone, I hope they remember you, yada, yada, like that. And at this point, Doctor Strange intervenes and gives him the time stone.
Yeah, he says, if you'll spare him,
Yeah.
I'll give you the time stone. He's like, no wizard tricks. No wizard tricks.
And so he gives it to him.
Yep. And then Stark is like, what are you doing? Because he had it hidden in some alternate dimension, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Timey-wimey, whatever it is.
So all this time, also back in Wakanda, the other remaining of Thanos' minions come down with his huge army.
Well, because the Avengers are like, hey, can you get this thing out of Vision's head so we don't have to blow him up? And so I always feel bad because I always forget his sister's name, which is super sad because I really love both the actor and her character.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, yeah, I could do that. I mean, I just need time. And they're like, yeah, we don't have a lot of that. And then she's like, well, why didn't you just hook it up this way so you could just pull it out? And Banner's like,
I didn't think of
didn't
that.
think about that. And so she gets to be like, uh-huh.
She
So-
says in order to do this, Vision has 2 trillion synapses or something. And
Whatever, big number.
So so
she
they
has
send
to undo each one of them individually. So the plan is for her to stay there with Vision and
Scarlet
Witch, so that as soon as, because there's something like, if only a similar power vibration could destroy it. So I guess only Scarlet Witch can destroy it or
Yeah.
whatever. So the plan is for them to all stay behind while everyone else mounts their defense.
so
Giant army.
The giant army comes down outside of the barriers of Wakanda. But there's so many of them, the barrier just disintegrates them, but there's so many of them that they can actually
A handful of them can actually push
yeah.
through.
And so then they realize they're going to perimeter all of Wakanda. What do we do? And T'Challa has to make the hard decision, open the barrier so that
Yeah.
they all go through this one little hole.
Where they can actually defend against it. Yeah.
And so they do. They come through. There's a fantastic battle.
It really is great. The monsters look really gross and nasty, and there's some pretty. I love the part where War Machine just carpet bombs them, but he does it before they open the barrier. I'm like, dude, you gotta save
Come
that
on,
stuff.
man. You guys.
It is really cool because air support over here, and it's Falcon and War Machine, and they're the actual Air Force guys. It's this is super awesome. The only thing I didn't like was Cap's new shields, but they were really lame.
Yeah, they were 2 little arm things.
Yeah, whatever.
Why couldn't they have just given him another vibranium shield?
Yeah, whatever.
Because there is a line where T'Challa says, get this man
Get
a
this
shield.
man a shield,
Yeah.
and they get him 2 weird ones.
He's like,
but-
I mean, I can do some damage.
I can
with
work with
guess,
this, but in the future, you work on. All right, it's fine. And they got Bucky, so Bucky's there too.
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah, they give him back his arm, and he's all like, so who we fighting? He knows what's up.
Yeah.
At this point, he's also turning into White Wolf, apparently.
Yeah, I guess that's his new name.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what they call him at the end of Black Panther, right? Or
Yeah,
something?
that's what the kids call him or something.
So
It
he's
just, sticks.
transforming from the Winter Soldier into White Wolf, which is
Okay.
combining 2 characters, I guess.
Sure.
Anyways, also in this time, through the power of the Stormbreaker and the Bifrost, comes back Thor, Groot, and Rocket to come
Yeah.
fight as well. And Thor's weapon,
Thor is so.
OP.
I think Thor that was just so satisfying. He's like, yes.
Well, because he
Get on
has
Thor.
he has a weapon again that can conjure a bunch of lightning and
Well,
stuff.
he can chant. I mean, it was established in Ragnarok that he could do lightning on his own, but
Oh, okay.
he's channeling it through this weapon, and it's just
Yeah.
get on.
So there's a grand old fight. It's wonderful.
And there's some great I love the interaction between Rocket and Bucky.
How much for the arm? It's not for sale.
No, he says
Oh,
how
it's
much for the gun.
Oh,
He's
no,
like,
I thought he
"It's
said
not
for the arm.
No, at first he asked for the gun.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's it's not for sale. I was like, how much for the arm? And Bucky just kind of looks at him and smirks and walks away. And then Rocket's like,
I'm gonna
oh yeah,
get that
I'm gonna
arm."
get that.
through this time, also Scarlet Witch knows that she should be out there too because she knows
Yeah.
they're in trouble. So she goes out there too.
Because like the enemy gives them like giant burrowing wheels or something.
Yeah.
But
So-
it turns out they had an inside man.
Yeah,
One of the guys is just like in there somehow.
because they know they can't like stand up to her, and so as soon as she's gone, they execute their plan of just going in there on the inside.
Yeah, and it's kind of left a little vague because like Suri, that's her name, I think, is like still working on pulling all the things off, but then Vision's like, all right, I need to like fight this person or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the guards can't stand up to him or whatever, and then everyone goes back, and it's a big fight scene. Nothing compared to the plot. Oh, and Banner's in the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah,
That was interesting.
he still can't come on out as Hulk, but yeah, he's in Veronica.
That was I didn't remember this his name. And it was okay.
yeah.
He got to do a couple cool things. This is nice. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing like major worth talking about happens in this, other than lots of cool fighting, and it's summer blockbuster, and just enjoy it because the characters are getting to be super awesome.
So we come to a point now though where Thanos does arrive.
Yeah.
And he has
He's
5
like,
out
"Hey,
of 6
guys."
Infinity Stones. So he is mowing down all of the Avengers.
Like all the Avengers like, God, he's just like, poof.
He is mowing down all the Avengers. At this point, Vision is like to Scarlet Witch, like, you need to do this right now. And, you know, of course, it's hard for her. And she was like, no, you have to do this right now. And so there she is, just like blowing a whole bunch of energy into the stone, killing him.
Well, the Avengers try to hold him off, and Thanos does not look especially worried.
Now, here's the thing, though. Scarlet Witch is apparently the only Avenger who can do some damage to Thanos. Because, like, she actually is able to... She's using both hands to try to destroy the stone. Thanos gets closer, and she uses one of the hands to, like, hold him back. And she's actually doing it. Even though he's got all 5 of the stones.
I mean, look, this was the second of the 2 scenes where it was obvious they were trying to pull it. You're like, is she gonna do it in time? Is this gonna happen? Like the same with the scene where he's like, oh, you gotta sacrifice something you love. And the whole time I was just like, bro, he's got the time stone.
Yeah.
Like none of this. So like, I can't take Thanos seriously during any of this scene because I think he could have just blown Scarlet Witch away at any moment. I think he was just like, this is cute. It's a good thing I could rewind time. Let's see
Yeah.
how this plays out. Let's let her experience this. Oh, you did it. No, you didn't. I'll
because
just bring
that's
him
what
back.
happens. The time stone, the stone gets
He
blown
makes some
up.
snarky comment.
Yeah, he's all
"Oh,
like,
that
you
must
know,
have been hard for
you've
you," like,
experienced
whatever.
loss. I've experienced it too. Rewind.
Yeah, it's just like,
Rewind,
okay.
and poor Vision comes back to life and is like, what just
"Hello?"
happened? And then just like rips the stone out of his head, and he is dead now. All the color like leaves his robotic body. That was harsh. That was kind of harsh.
It's a good thing he's a robot and I don't actually care about him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a voice that we've been hearing from the beginning.
Yeah, it is crazy that like he's pretty much the next longest running quote unquote Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So he is now in possession of all Infinity Stones. But then who comes out of the sky but
Mighty
Thor with the
Thor.
Stormbreaker and gets him right through
pretty brutal.
and is like staring him right in the eyes. And
like,
Thanos is like breathing
You
hard.
don't
And
beat
he's just
Thor
like,
or whatever.
you should have gone for the head. And
Just like,
Thanos
whoops. Snaps his fingers.
Now, a brief small explosion happens, and then Thanos is in this like different realm.
World of blood again.
Yeah, and-
really hoping they would have done the death thing here.
But instead he sees like this like gaze bow with like young Gamora there, and she's like, "Did you do it?" And he's like, "Yep." And so then he returns back.
He asked like if it was worth it or something
Yeah.
like that. It was a weird scene. Whatever.
Thor is like the Infinity Gauntlet is now like smoldering, and like Thor is just like, "What have you done?" And Thanos is just like,
Bye-bye.
bye and teleports out of there. And so everything is silent for a while, and then they're just like, "What happens now?" And Bucky is just like, "Hey, Steve," and then disintegrates.
Yeah.
Black Panther disintegrates.
Falcon disintegrates.
Falcon disintegrates.
Groot disintegrates.
Groot disintegrates. This was apparently one of the sadder ones. James Gunn, director of the Guardians movies, was asked, "Hey, so what was Groot's last words there?" Because like as he's disintegrating, you know, he gives like an "I am Groot," you know, to Rocket. Apparently, his last words were "Dad."
It's sad.
Yeah, he disintegrates.
Too bad that can't be conveyed in the movie. I mean, I get it, but whatever.
Yeah. Over back on Titan, Mantis disintegrates.
everybody gets it.
Drax disintegrates.
Both Peters disintegrate.
Well, Peter Quill disintegrates, and right before Doctor Strange does, he tells Tony, he's all like, Stark, this is the only way.
This was the only way.
And then he disintegrates. And yeah, Peter Parker's all like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. This one was really sad. Everybody says, and it's probably true, that since he's the only one with spider sense, he like knew it was coming for him. So that's why he like got overcome.
It was
with
weird
fear.
because different characters definitely reacted to it differently. Like Black Panther didn't even seem to realize it was happening, but like other characters were like, what's happening to me? Oh, Scarlet Witch gets it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, literally everyone on Titan except for Stark
And Nebula.
Disintegrate.
Yeah.
I don't know why they decided to keep Nebula, but okay. And that's basically it. It goes to a scene of Thanos on some planet, just like chilling with like a Infinity Gauntlet that don't look too great, and
That's what he was saying he was gonna do. Like, he was gonna
rest.
He was gonna rest after his work was done. Yeah, and then the movie ends straight up.
So let's talk just the ending. So some of the complaints I've heard about this were it was half a movie. I feel like if you weren't aware this was going to be half a movie going in, that's kind of on you.
That's a great point.
Like, I understand. We mentioned this in the Brothering Around podcast, but like a big problem, one of the big problems with Pirates 2 was that it was half a movie. So you walked out feeling like you didn't get a movie. But like, first of all, this was actually discussed on that podcast I mentioned. And it was interesting because the guy who really had a problem with it being half a movie loved both the Star Wars movies. And so the other guy was like, but like, aren't the Star Wars movies kind of like half movies? So I don't want to get into it too much here because I know that's a tender topic, but it's there's like this weird delineation where like people are saying like, oh, it's just kind of half a movie, but like, where is that line where it's half a movie or not half a movie? Because I enjoyed this movie as a whole. Did it have a satisfying resolution in the sense that the good guys didn't win? No. But did it have lots of characters that I loved watching? Did it have an arc that was clear and like you saw beginning to end? I think so. Like in most universes, this would be the end. Like he won. There you go. Obviously, we know that the time stone exists. So as long as that exists, there's a lot of stuff you can do, which is why I can't be too upset about any of the characters disintegrating. Gamora, because she's apparently in the soul realm, whatever. Like those, if they hadn't said that, I would have left Loki and Gamora as the ones least likely to come back. But then again, we know there's a Guardians 3, right? There's no way Gamora's not going to be in
to that end, we also know there's a Black Panther 2.
Yeah, so you can't take this seriously. And that's fine. I think that's fine. So let's just start with did you feel frustrated because you felt like this was half a movie? And if so, where did that line?
No,
okay.
I didn't.
Okay, I agree.
I pretty much exactly what you just said is how I felt. The character interaction was very satisfying. The action was satisfying. The end, I mean, like if we consider Thanos the protagonist, we had a full story. You know what I mean?
And we did spend more time with Thanos. Like they developed Thanos so much. Like it kind of was him as the protagonist, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And really well done. So I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Well, let me ask you this also as a follow-up. Were you at all shocked at all when the disintegrations were happening?
No. So I'll just sort of touch on my reaction to disintegrations now because this was sort of what I walked out of the movie with, and why Sam was kind of upset with me because he's like, you're focusing so much on this. I thought you liked the movie. He's like, yeah, the movie was good, but I was very focused on trying to figure out how I felt about the ending. The disintegrations did not make me sad. There was never in the sense that like, oh no, like that character's dead. I was like, okay, they'll come back.
Exactly.
What I was sad about was when I had the realization, I'm going to have to go through half of the next Avengers movie without these characters. And that is sad because you know that they're going to have to focus a lot of their time on fixing this. And then those characters will come back.
Yeah.
And after I realized that, I started counting the characters that were missing. And I was like, okay. And I like a lot of these characters. Some of the characters who I really like, didn't get the axe, like Thor and Cap, like they're great.
The OG Avengers didn't get the axe.
That was when I realized, when I started counting, I was like, no Avengers who appeared before the actual Avengers movie got the axe, and that includes War Machine was not in Avengers, but apparently he was planned to be and then cut, but that's not really important. But he had already been established, right?
Yeah.
War Machine was in Iron Man 2, which came before that. So the only exception for any character that was introduced before that who was off was kind of Vision, and they left the possibility open of them bringing Vision back before they get the stones, right? Because they were talking about like, well, there's like parts of Jarvis in him and there's parts of Stark and parts of Banner, so if we remove the Mind Stone there should still be enough.
Yeah.
So there's still a world where if Banner and Black Panther's sister like work on him, I'm sure they could bring him back, which is whatever. I don't care about Vision, like I really don't. But then I was like, all these characters we've already seen so much of, and it's this weird, I wasn't happy with the characters they left, and that's a little subjective, but hear me out. We've already had an Avengers movie with this cast. Like, literally the only new characters who were not in the first Avengers movie who are left are War Machine, who was around, Rocket Raccoon, and everyone's favorite, Nebula. Like, why are you even still around? That was the easiest disintegrate ever. So it just makes me sad that I know. And then I was like, well, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp and, you know, Captain Marvel are going to fix this. And that way we'll have the next movie with them all in. But apparently, no, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is occurring concurrently. And Captain Marvel's a flashback. It's like in the 90s. It's the origin story. So like a Cap type thing.
So it'll lead into...
It won't even lead. It'll probably end with like how she gets called with the buzzer with Nick Fury, which we'll touch on too. But for the most part, I think it's going to be not really related. I think it's going to be something like, oh, back in the 90s, this is how she became Captain Marvel. So, and the thing with that is, Thanos makes a big deal about how it's all random, but we know that there are producers and money people in charge of this. So it felt very obvious that they made the decision, which characters are we going to make the most money on? Which characters do we actually want to write? And they decided on all the old ones. And that just made me sad. It made me less excited to see the next Avengers movie, right? Because I'm like, look, you can make the argument that these are the characters who have the most threads, right? Like, Banner has to figure out how to get Hulk back. Okay, that's a totally manufactured thing that was just for this movie and was very whatever, but okay, fine. Cap and Stark still have to make up. All right, fine, whatever. It's done enough, but okay. I don't know why War Machine stuck around. Because they offed all the other black characters. Can I say that? Like, that was kind of weird. But, you know, we still got to get Banner and Black Widow some time to be all romantic or whatever. So I guess we'll keep her. And like Thor has this cool weapon and he's one of the OGs. So all right, he can stick around. And Stark, we can't get rid of Stark. Stark does everything. And I'm sure it's leading up to the fact that Strange knows that Stark is important to finishing this, right? And so that is still out there and that's neat. But I want to see more Strange. Like we still didn't get. I'm upset that like two of my favorite Avengers, period, and Hawkeye and Ant-Man were just left out entirely. And like they make a reason for it in the movie, but I was like,
that was a cheap reason.
It was a cheap reason. It's like, I want to see Ant-Man and Hawkeye here. Like Hawkeye's one of the OGs and I just really like Ant-Man and you know his humor. I think they were just like, Ant-Man's humor belongs like with the Guardians and he would be stuck with Cap in them and we don't really want to deal with that in like our little group dynamics. So we'll just kind of leave him out. I feel like that was actually the decision, you know? So that was that was why I left the movie feeling a little bittersweet because I'm just not excited about seeing Avengers 1 again, I guess. You know, like that movie with these characters already exists and it's great. Like, why don't we give Bucky? I think we all, like your prediction was Iron Man and Cap are going to get offed in this one.
That was my prediction, yeah.
And we're all still expecting that because all the rumors going around how like they don't really want to do this part anymore or like they haven't renewed their contract. So I think what they're actually doing outside of our expectations is I think they're giving them one last hurrah and the next movie they're going to be gone for good somehow. I don't know how that's going to work with the time stone.
No, I think you're right. I think in some way, yeah.
I think that you still could have done that with them disintegrating and because assuming they are going to do things like, I don't know, like War Machine becomes Iron Man or Bucky becomes Captain America, right? Or Falcon or whatever. They could have had them regular guys, the Cap and Stark, offed, and then have those other guys start to fill in those roles so you could see them growing into it. And so by the end of the movie, when those other characters were offed, it was like you got to see them really grow into it. But I think what they're actually going for is this is going to be their last hurrah. And then whoever's going to die is actually going to die. And, then people will start to take over. And maybe that's what the next phase is going to be. You're going to have a White Wolf movie where he, deals with Cap being gone. Or I don't know. But I think that's kind of what we're going for. It just did make me less excited because now I don't get to see Ant-Man and Star-Lord interact. I don't get to see Ant-Man and Doctor Strange.
Well, I think you're making assumptions already. How much time these characters are going to have on screen for the next movie.
It's just how are they going to fix? They don't even know where Thanos is. They're going to have a whole part of the movie where they have to regroup and get over the fact that they lost. Like, how are you going to do that in less than an hour and a half and fix the whole situation?
Well, it's not going to be less than an hour and a half.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you've got an hour and a half of them fixing the situation. So even if it's a half hour longer than this movie, the longest Marvel movie we've got, that's 3 hours, and you've got half a movie without these characters. Like, even if you give me half the movie with them back, you've got so much stuff to stuff in with them, probably still defeating Thanos. Like, there has to be something left for them to do. If it takes the whole movie to get them back, and that's it, then it took the whole movie to get them back, and then we didn't get any of them. But if it goes half, they somehow bring them back with the Infinity Stones, and then Thanos comes back with his second Strike Force, and we get to see these characters be awesome again. That's the better of those two options, and there are certainly other ways they can do them. I can't even imagine how they could do it without a movie in between to fix it, just with time and like making it satisfying for them to come back from. But like even the better of the two options, I'm getting half a movie without more Doctor Strange, right? I'm getting half a movie without more Black Panther, who is awesome. Stuff like that. So,
well, I guess I'm not so, because if they were able to make such a nice villain, a good villain, I should say, a well-written villain in Thanos in this movie, like, I mean, I'm not saying that is complete cred for them, but I am.
It is cred, like.
Well, sure, but not like 100%. Like, I'm just saying that, like, I think these people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Touching back on some of the other things you were saying, like, when it came to the disintegrations, as soon as Black Panther disintegrated, I was like, okay, they're coming back. Like, because Black Panther is their biggest cash cow, and there's no way he's gonna be.
I mean, he's
forever.
a great character.
I mean, I thought about it in the real world sense. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, there's no way that Black Panther is actually gonna be gone for good. And the fact that they're disintegrating also means that they can be reintegrated somehow. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? We didn't see like, Bucky wasn't decapitated or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that immediately I was like, okay, everybody who was disintegrated will come back.
Absolutely.
Loki probably won't be coming back.
I mean, that would be disappointing. Loki is another character who I really love, and I like what they did with him.
I think of all the
possible.
characters, he's the most likely not to be coming back.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm okay with that. We need to have some sort of loss. But
I don't feel like Loki had enough of a redemption for it to be that much of a loss. I think he needs more time, but maybe that's just me.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite so dreading the next movie. You know what I mean? Like
I'm dreading it. I'm just.
I understand your concerns. Honestly, I do. I understand your point of view. I really do, and I think you're pretty close to the money on that as well. Because anything that would be less than like a half a movie seems a little Deus Ex Machina to fix this gigantic mess.
Yeah.
So I see your point. I really do. I'm a little less pessimistic though. I feel that the Russo brothers can do it. I feel like what they've done with this movie and the beautiful way they paced this gigantic
it actually
cast,
was really well paced, crazily.
the way that they were able to still at times surprise us, the great cinematography and the great way they treated every single one of these characters in their different individual treatments. I think they can do it. I really think they can. I think you're right in having this one being the OG Avengers last hurrah, whether that means all of them dying or just some of them dying. I do think you're right. This is going to be sort of their last hurrah. But in the end, I think we're still going to be satisfied with an actual full ensemble fight. I think this next movie will be actually all the characters on screen at the same time.
I think so. I hope so. I'm less concerned with the fight and more with the like character interactions. But even in this one, they did a good job of having them interact in the fights, and it was cool. Like the Rocket and Bucky moment that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So You're right. Maybe I'm just worried about it. It definitely did. It took me out of the movie a lot because it felt very much like the directors and like the suits going like, and we'll pluck out this character and we'll pluck out this character, you know, because there wasn't any emotion. It was just like, you could have paused the movie right there and they'd be like, all right, who do we not want in the next movie? And that's what it felt like. And it pulled me out at the end, which left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But honestly, I don't have that much bad to say about this movie other than there was like one time when it surprised me. And the other moments when it tried to be surprising, it was kind of a waste of time. And that's not that big a deal in the grand scheme.
Well, I think we had similar experiences then with the disintegration scene also, because, you know, that you saw it as more of a thing in the future of like, well, now we don't really get a lot of this character in the next movie. Me, I was like, well, this death doesn't really mean much to me because they're totally coming back.
Yeah, it didn't mean anything to me emotionally, but at some point I realized like there was the sad realization of like, oh man, now we don't get to see that character in the next movie. Like, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But, like I couldn't be sad about the characters, you know? It was like, again, it wasn't anything to do with immersion or the characters. It was like it took me out to real world where I looked at this as a movie that was going into another movie with corporate suits presiding over the movies.
Well, yeah. I mean, in a sense that I felt the same way too.
Yeah.
It took me out of it and just going like, the corporate suits would never have actually killed off Black Panther.
Not in that way, of course.
No, and they would have never actually killed off Groot.
Yeah.
Not even
Literally like all rip the Guardians, man.
I know,
they
man.
got the short end of that.
I know, man. Sheesh, poor Rocket.
Rocket's like, oh, you left me with Nebula.
I think there's a meme of just like a picture of like an actual raccoon, and the title was just like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But yeah, there's no way that they're gonna be gone for good. You know, Guardians is a good cash cow. Black Panther is obviously a cash cow. I think Spider-Man is as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're not gonna be gone forever. We all know that. So at the end of the movie, when I was walking out of the theater, I mean, I was affected in the way that I was like, okay, this was a good Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I'm very happy I saw it. And, you know, I'm very happy that I've been pleased. I know you're not a fan of Age of Ultron, but I'm happy that I've been pleased with all the Avengers movies so far. It's been very satisfying to me, all the Avengers movies. Yes, the ending wasn't as impactful as I think they maybe wanted it to be because I thought about it realistically, which is what you shouldn't be doing for a comic book movie, but, you know.
It would have been hard to do it any other way unless you did something like unless you somehow made it so where he didn't get the stones, but like you have to have him get the stones eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I had predicted that maybe the end of this movie was going to be then he finally gets all the stones. However, I was a little comic book ignorant at the time. I didn't know that it was because it is comic book lore that a snap will end half of the universe. So of course, if he gets all the stones, it takes a millisecond to snap, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be one person dying. I said it was going to be Cap and or Tony. Turns out it was not them, but it was pretty much everyone else.
Yeah.
So I got some things right. I got some things wrong, and that's okay.
And there was the post-credit. I was also really sad that Nick Fury got offed. He's the only one who you could consider like for the original Avengers who got offed. And we haven't seen him in a movie in forever. Like, man, give him a little more time than that. I don't know, but whatever. The only thing that happened in that scene was basically people disintegrated and he pushed the Captain Marvel button, which apparently has existed. Not sure why you didn't push that one earlier. But
yeah, is Captain Marvel apparently the most OP of all time?
She's super busted.
Well, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we have some pretty busted characters in like Strange and Thor, but like she's almost literally Supergirl. So
well, I can't wait to see that movie then.
Yeah,
and we'll see the comparisons between her and Wonder Woman too.
Probably. Oh yeah, I'm sure. So,
that's gonna be messy.
Wonder Woman was a great movie. I don't know which one's the better movie, but who knows?
We'll see. I still would like to see Wonder Woman.
They've already changed her name. In most of the comics, she's known as Miss Marvel because she actually came out during like sort of women's empowerment period. And I guess at that time, Miss was like a term of like empowerment.
Really?
It is, yeah, I guess. It's not. It certainly has not remained that way. So I think to make her less focused on the gender thing and just make her a powerful hero in her own right, they just went with Captain.
Well, there was also some kerfuffle with DC as well, too.
Was there?
There's a DC superhero called Captain Marvel.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, this was when there was only DC. There wasn't DC and Marvel.
Huh.
But like they changed his name to Shazam
His name was Captain Marvel? That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
They changed his name because like Shazam is like his like transform call.
Yeah.
And they just changed his name to Shazam. I forget the exact controversy over it. I think like because Jack Kirby left DC from Marvel and like took the name Captain Marvel with him or something.
Weird.
It's something legalistic, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't really have that much more to say about the movie.
Yeah, I don't really either, but I think we said it all. And
I mean,
there's tons of other podcasts and YouTube videos of people like
I'm
extrapolating
sure
the crap out
it's
of this.
definitely going to be interesting to see where Marvel goes from here because I think their last two movies have been events with Black Panther and this one. So they're still entering a period of uncertainty because you figure this is still some kind of transition, like I mentioned. I will definitely see Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like that character and that like thing, so I'm excited for that.
I think I'm gonna want to see Captain Marvel.
It is really crazy to me. We talked about oversaturation. There's going to be 2 more Marvel movies before the next Avengers. And Avengers is coming out this time next year, right?
Yes.
Like we're going to have like 4 Marvel movies this year leading right into another Avengers.
Yes.
That's bonkers. And yet I won't tell you I'm not interested in these movies.
No, you're right.
You know, because they were events again. And
You're absolutely right. My cynical view of the bubble popping is not quite so coming to fruition.
it's going to depend on what happens after the next Infinity Wars. Like, how good is Guardians of the Galaxy 3 really going to be? You know, what is going to happen in Black Panther 2? Like, what can you do outside of his origin story? And what are these new characters going to do? Because, you know, I don't see Cap 4 happening with, you know, Chris Evans. We haven't had an Iron Man movie in forever. I don't think we need another Thor movie. So what are the standalone movies going to be? Are we going to have the White Wolf? Is he going to become Captain America? What are these side characters? Is Hawkeye finally going to get a movie? Probably not.
Probably not.
But, you know, that's where it's really going to... I could still see it bursting after this next Avengers movie if things just go wrong. Because if you have a few stinkers after that, then the confidence in them working with these new characters just erodes completely. And we're going to look at it like, well, it was a great ride and it was a great finale. But, you know, nothing goes forever. One of the guys in the podcast I was mentioning before was like, are they really going to keep doing stuff after this in Avengers? And the other guy's like, yeah, have you not been paying attention? He's like, I was just kind of hoping it would just have a nice ending and we could move on with, you know, life. But that is not going to happen. So I could absolutely still see it falling apart, but I think the next 3 movies are going to do great, if only because Black Panther and the Avengers movie were an event again. And you know that both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel are going to have to tie into this eventually. Like Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to have something to do with bringing Ant-Man and the Wasp into the next movie.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like it's going to probably end with people disintegrating and then be like, what? Maybe I should call
What are they doing?
Yeah, maybe I should call the Avengers and see what's going on. And yeah, so...
Yeah. So, but what's DC up to now?
Did they give up?
I think Aquaman is still
I think
coming out.
Aquaman. Did it not already come out?
Oh,
Man,
jeez. I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't think it
All I
did.
saw of Aquaman was all the pictures on Reddit of his hot wife and like the bodysuit. That's about all I ever saw of Aquaman.
Well, he's a bit of a beefcake too.
That is true. I literally just like him, but I have no idea.
And to be honest, I do not.
Wonder Woman 2 is happening someday.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to do really well too.
It'll do well. I don't know if it'll hold a candle to the first because the first was really good.
Well,
Be
I
tough.
mean, I imagine if it doesn't hold a candle, it'll still be close to it.
In money or in how good it is? I don't have faith that it'll be that close in terms of how good it is. Because
What-
things can go bad quick.
Well, there has not been a successful DC Universe sequel.
Well, there haven't been, the Batmans, but we're not really counting on the DC universe.
No, we're
There was
not.
only the one, Batman
Yeah.
versus Superman.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing to compare with.
DC
whatever.
Universe so far is Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad,
I forget that that's counted.
Wonder Woman, and then Justice League.
Yeah,
5
and soon
movies.
to be Aquaman and Wonder Woman 2.
You know, to be fair, it took Marvel 6 movies.
Do you really count? Okay, but you're counting. There was like 6 movies before Avengers, right?
There was Iron Man 2, Hulk, Thor, and Cap.
Okay. Yeah. But they only had 4. DC only had 4, right?
No, DC has Man of
Man of
Steel,
Steel,
Batman vs Superman,
Wonder Woman,
Wonder
Suicide
Woman,
Squad.
Suicide Squad,
and
Okay.
then
And then Justice League.
I mean, we're nitpicking with one movie. They just haven't done it very well. Like, I don't know.
Okay, well, that'll be a separate discussion. Anyway.
Whatever.
I think
This is probably long. I have no idea what our time is.
I bet we're about 2 hours or about an hour and 45.
gosh.
So
End it.
if you are here, thank you for coming back to our grand return. This is just mostly because Dave and I haven't had a chance at well, we decided not to have the chance to talk about this on our own so that we could save it for the podcast. And I think we got everything out.
Yeah.
It's nice though that you and I feel pretty much the same on this movie though.
Yeah, it's good.
We liked it. We liked pretty much the same things of it, and we disliked kind of the same things of it, but there wasn't a whole lot to dislike, honestly.
No, this was a good movie.
Yes. So what a nice refresh and a nice return back to form here, eh?
Yeah.
Good old blanket fort and peeking our microphones and
Good times. Going way too long.
going way too long and losing
really
the sense
made a
of
habit
time.
of that. Whatever.
Let's get
Anyway,
some food.
I'm so hungry.
I am so hungry too. So, thank you if you lasted this long as per usual for joining us on our grand return to the W Diddy podcast. Special thanks, of course, goes out to Danny Barrett Hubert for the wonderful artwork and to the combined efforts of OC Remix, Rob KTA, and Expert Novice for the intro and outro music. We will return
At least once.
at least once.
Take care.